Yes, I built this, and so can you in just a few simple steps. Do you want one too? Follow me and lass uns anfangen.
There's dirt on my hands, strong like a tree. There's roots where I stand.
Okay, this intro might have been a little bit over the top, but I just wanted to display the gorgeous colors and perfect sheen of the flag. After building a bunch of American flag cutting boards, I felt like it was time to finally build a colorful flag. And of course, I'm on a budget. So I went to the store and bought the cheapest pieces of lumber that I could find. That being 2x4s. I started a project by cutting the pieces to size on my miter saw. Of course, I wanted to keep the right proportion of the American flag, which is a 10:19 ratio. Since my 2x4s are actually not 2-inch but rather 1.5-inch thick, I had to cut the length of the pieces just above 37 inches. 37.05 to be exact. Which is kind of unfortunate since that leaves me with the smaller leftover pieces, which I won't be able to use for this project. I get 2 pieces out of each 2x4, so I had to purchase 7 of the lumber pieces. Each cost me around $3.74 or so, making it around $26, and I get 2 flags out of it because I will be cutting those pieces in half later. And I'm left with a bunch of leftover lumber for another project. Let's double check I have enough pieces. I counted 13. Perfect. Exactly what I needed. I used my table saw to cut the edges square, since most boards come from the hardware store with rounded over edges. Now if you decide to build the same flag, but you don't like to cut the pieces in half, like I do in the next step, you only have to clean up one side, since you will be shaving off the top side anyways. But since I cut the pieces in two, I need both sides to be square. The square side will be the underside of the flag. Even though it won't be visible once the flag hangs on the wall, you still want to know that your job looks immaculate on both sides, front and back. Because in the end, there's nothing worse than gifting someone your work and know you could have done much better. Here I'm using a pencil and a ruler to mark the middle of the pieces. Like mentioned before, this is the step where I cut them in half, in a wavy form. Like this I have less material to shave off to make the flags wavy, and I get 2 to the price of 1. Who wouldn't like that? I think cutting the pieces in half still makes the flag look super wavy and it's thick enough to be visually pleasing. So I would definitely recommend this step. I marked the wavy form on the material, just going up and down a few times. Then I used my bandsaw to follow the line and cut the piece. You can also use a jigsaw here if you don't have a bandsaw. And here I got the 2 pieces, one for the one flag and one for the other flag. I took the piece for the first flag and used it as a template for the rest of the pieces. I laid a ruler underneath the piece and moved it over just an inch each time I traced the new shape onto the piece. Then I cut those pieces in half. Moving the template over 1 inch at a time will get you a nice wavy pattern for the flag. Each time when I cut the piece in half, I lay one piece to the pile for the first flag and the other piece for the pile of the second flag. I do this for all 13 pieces. Once I have all 13 pieces cut, I clamp them together. And I ended up with this shape. I have to say, I did have some issues with the bandsaw and it was hard to stay on the lines that I marked. So not all pieces line up the way that I intended to, but it will still work. I just have to shave off a little bit more material. To shave off all the material, I got this cool new disc of Amazon. And oh boy, is that a harsh disc. It shaves off the lumber within seconds. And it was too strong and powerful, I felt more comfortable using it on the floor. Be very careful when you use this disc with the tool. It's super powerful and it might just take off your leg if you don't hold on too hard enough. And that's the rough cut of the wavy form. What do you think? Now it's time to do some sanding, since the tool did leave some unpleasant marks. For that, I lifted a piece back up onto my workbench. For the sanding job, I used my old Ryobi sander. I usually don't like to use it since I don't have the right attachment to connect it to my dust extractor. But since I already wear a dust mask and my workshop looks like a bomb exploded after shaving down that wood, who cares about a little bit more dust? And of course, let's have some fun with it. Well, YouTube says no fun, so, well, I just have to slow down a bit. I'm already demonetized, but I don't want to completely lose my channel just yet. I mean, I can't help it, my hips just want to move. It's so much more fun like that. And voila! All nice and smooth, just enough. And I did leave some of the marks just to give the flag a little bit character. Before I move on to the next step, I have to clean the workshop and me just a little bit. So I'm gonna take a quick rinse and change clothing while the dust settles, and then I'll take care of that. Well, I should have taken this project outdoors, but my trip back to Florida got a bit delayed since my dog got really sick and had to have a surgery. She's 15 now, going on 16, so needless to say, it was super high risk. The last few days I've been spending nursing her back to health. I still really wanted to build this project now, so now I gotta do the cleanup. Fun fact about the red buckets. I went to Firehouse Subs and they sell those buckets every once in a while after I empty them. They store pickles in them. And I bought a few since I thought they looked so cool. Well, I soaked them in bleach outside for weeks to get rid of the pickle smell, and it's just not going anywhere. Now my whole workshop smells like pickles. Once I had my shop a bit clean, I used my propane torch to burn the wood. This burned wood with the stain on top of it will look so cool. This step is not necessary, but I would recommend it for the overall looks. For the stain, I used Minwax in color indigo and crimson. I saw others use the semi-transparent paint, and while I really liked the look, I wanted to go with something different, so I went with the solid stain. To apply the stain, I used a foam brush, and I did not wipe off any extra paint. I made sure to only apply one thin layer that was enough to just get the right coverage, where you get a deep rich color, but you also see the pattern of the wood shine through. To get those sharp lines in between the red and blue, I used razor blades to not get any bleeding. You can either press those in with force or use a hammer like I did, and tap them slightly. The paint can states that the stain will dry in only 1 hour, so I'll be right back. Once it has dried, it's time for the glue up. But don't forget to take out those razor blades before. For the glue up, like always, I used Tide Bond 3 glue and my clamps. I added the glue mainly to the underside of the pieces to avoid excess squeeze out of the glue. After I tightened the clamps, I noticed a little bit of squeeze out, but it was easily wiped off with a damp cloth. While the glue was drying, I worked on the stars. I used my Cricut to cut them out of vinyl. You could also engrave the stars or purchase pre-made stickers. The vinyl that I had on hand did not stick very well to the wood, so it took me a while longer to apply them, but I got it done. Them not sticking won't be a problem in the end because I will cover the whole flag with resin, and then those stars won't go nowhere because they will be encapsulated. Resin time! Yes, finally! And like always, I'm using total wood resin. The resin I'm using is a 1:1 ratio. Make sure you measure it correctly. Also, when working with resin, use a respirator or work in a well-ventilated area. And then mix, mix, mix. The first step of getting an immaculate resin pour is to have it mixed properly. If the resin doesn't harden right in the end because you didn't mix it enough, you will have a problem. This happened to me one time and it will never happen again. And now the best part about this project, spreading the resin. Of course I had to use my hands for that. Spread the resin all over the piece to a few millimeter thickness. You might notice some of the resin trying to paddle slightly on the bottom of the waves. Just make sure you go over it a few times and try to fix it. Then use a blowtorch to the bubble. This step is important to get a nice even finish without the bubbles. Well, it still needs to dry, but wir are fertig! Wow, what a project! I totally love it! What do you think? How do you like the outcome? Would you build one for yourself? Maybe tackle a flag for your country? Wouldn't that be fun? Please like, comment and subscribe. Most importantly, press the bell button to get notified of new videos. Also, if you can, please join my Patreon. This helps me continue making more YouTube videos. Thank you for everything and see you next Friday. Tschüss!